Hello. All right, we're live, and today I'm going to talk about something that you've probably not heard of. Maybe you have, I don't know. There's a way that we can make certain starchy carbs healthier and have less calories. Trip out on that, right? Okay, so we are going to talk about something called resistant starches. I'm going to explain what they are. I'm going to explain the benefits. I'm going to explain what food. Hello, Della Haida. I'm going to explain what foods to get them from, okay? So, really quick, what exactly is a resistant starch? It is a carbohydrate that resists digestion in the small intestine. It makes its way down to the large intestine, where it then gets fermented. And during this fermentation, it acts as a food, if you will, that feeds the healthy bacteria in the gut, okay? So we're gonna have a little science moment here. Hang in there with me. So all starches, okay, when I say, carbohydrate, the starches, all starches are made up of two polysaccharides. They're made up of amylose and amylopectin. You don't need to know those names. Don't worry about it, okay? But I just want to make sure you understand the mechanism behind how this works. So let's start with amylopectin. Basically, it's highly branched, okay? So it has a whole bunch of surface area available for digestion. That means it's broken down quickly, which means that your blood sugar is going to go up, and the higher your blood sugar goes up, the more insulin gets released. And so really quickly, let's just make sure we understand and remember the basic: when blood sugar goes up, insulin gets released. As insulin is in your system, you cannot tap into fat, okay? You cannot use fat as an energy source. So until all that insulin is run out of your system, and the more that there is, the longer it's gonna take, then you cannot tap into fat as fuel, right? So that's why we really want to control our blood sugar, because we want less insulin to be released, okay? So with that first kind of polysaccharide I explained, amylopectin, you're going to have a higher rise in blood sugar, which means more insulin gets released. Now with amylose, and again, you don't need to worry about these names, okay? I'm just doing this for you people that really want to know, like, what are the names? Amylose is a straight chain, so there's less surface to be digested. So foods that have amylose are digested more slowly. So that means there's going to be less of a blood sugar spike. That means less insulin. That means you're going to be able to tap into fat as energy easier, okay? So resistant starch is called resistant starch because it resists digestion, okay? So, okay, let me explain what normally happens. Normally when we eat a starch, what will happen is it makes its way to the small intestines, where enzymes break it down into sugar. And this is, it doesn't matter if we're talking about a piece of candy or, whatever. Any type of starchy carb is going to go into the small intestine. The enzymes are going to break it down as sugar, and it's going to go into the bloodstream, okay? And then the insulin gets released, like we talked about. Now, resistant starch. So since it's not fully absorbed in the small intestines, it makes its way to, sorry, it's a loud truck. It makes its way to the large intestines, where then it starts to feed, it gets fermented, and it feeds the good, not the bad bacteria. It feeds the good bacteria. That means it's going to have less of an impact on the blood sugar. Now, resistant starch is really similar to fiber. So we also don't absorb fiber, right? Fiber has many, many health benefits, but we don't absorb it. So same thing with resistant starch. When it gets to our small intestines, we don't absorb it. So, okay, this is where I think a lot of people are gonna be like, I'm sold. I am sold. So normally a gram of carbohydrates, we say, has 4 calories, right? A gram of protein has 4 calories, a gram of fat has 9 calories. So just keep that in mind. Every gram you eat a food, and for every gram of carbs, there is 4 calories. Now, since resistant starch is incompletely digested, right? Since it's not fully digested, trip out on this. I have my notes down here. That's why I keep looking down so I don't forget anything. We only extract 2 calories of energy per gram of resistant starch versus the 4 calories that we absorb per gram of a normal starch. So resistant starch is literally, we only absorb half the calories. Is that totally like mind-blowing or what? So here's the takeaway. High resistant starchy foods are gonna fill you up without filling you out. That person liked that I said that, I think. Okay, let's talk about benefits. So as we already discussed, since resistant starches aren't fully absorbed in the small intestines, then it either won't raise your blood sugar or it'll be very minimal. And that is what we want, especially if your goal is to lose weight, to lose fat, but it's also just good for everybody to have stable blood sugar. It's literally tied to health, right? Is stabilized blood sugar. So just remember, less of a raise in blood sugar means less insulin is released, means you are going to be able to tap into fat stores to be used as fuel much easier, okay? So also gut health is improved because of the fermentation of the resistant starches in the large intestines. It feeds the healthy bacteria and not the bad bacteria. And something that we know now is that 90% of our immunity is within our gut, right? So this is just gonna help to increase the health of your gut, which means in turn, it's gonna increase your immune system, which obviously is something that we're all concerned with right now. Also, healthy gut bacteria helps to control your glycemic control. So again, all tying it back to balanced blood sugar. So whether you're a person who really wants to focus on balanced blood sugar, or whether you're a person that just wants to be healthier, healthy gut bacteria is going to help you with glycemic control. Resistant starch helps you to feel satiated. So it helps you to feel satisfied more quickly when you're eating, and it keeps you full longer. So you're less likely to overeat, okay? It increases nutrient circulation, which is important. That means you're going to be able to absorb more nutrients from the food that you eat. It also decreases bad cholesterol and decreases triglycerides. There's a lot of benefits. I'm almost done though. It improves your digestion because again, it's like fiber. It's very similar. It's a very similar thing to fiber, okay? And also improved immunity, like I mentioned. It can influence the production of immune cells. It's like awesome, right? Okay. Food sources. Let's talk about that. So what do I eat to get this? Now here's where it's going to get kind of crazy. It's not just as much as what to eat, but if you cook it or not, okay, and how you cook it. This is where things get very interesting, my friend. Okay, so resistant starch is found in starchy plant foods, like beans or legumes. White beans and lentils have the highest amount of resistant starch. It's also found in starchy vegetables. It's found in plantains. I'm gonna talk more about that in a second. It's found in some whole grains. And okay, so here's where things get crazy. Some types of cooked and then cooled foods will become high in resistant starch. And that's the case of white potatoes specifically, and rice. Okay, so let me get into this. Some foods, the longer and hotter they're cooked, it lowers the resistant starch. That is what happens with oats, right? Plantains. So, when you cook the plantains raw, have a lot of resistant starch. As you cook them and they're heated, the resistant starch drops. Bananas have resistant starch, but only when they're green are they high in resistant starch. And I don't know many people that eat unripe green bananas. So if you're an oatmeal fan and you're like, what? When I cook my oatmeal, it drops the resistant starch. I would try doing overnight oats. I personally don't eat oatmeal, but I know there's a lot of recipes out there where you soak the oatmeal overnight. So if you soak your oatmeal, oh, my Heidi's here. Matilda, hi. Hi. Sorry, guys. Okay. If you soak your oats overnight, and that's going to keep the resistant starch high, okay? Now, let's talk about rice, beans, white potatoes. Okay, so I would try cooking them the day before you're gonna use them. let them cool, because the cooling process in rice, white potatoes, and beans, that cooling process increases the resistant starch, okay? And then when you go to use that stuff the next day with your meal, for some reason, reheating it does not drop the resistant starch. So here's the big takeaway from this. If you're a person, I'm not saying to go start eating a bunch of rice and beans, and well, beans are good for you, but I'm not saying go eat a bunch of rice and white potatoes if you don't already. But here's my shift for you that I'm suggesting. Cook them first, let them cool, and then reheat them, because you're gonna absorb less calories. Remember what I told you, resistant starch, we absorb only half the calories, okay? So you're gonna absorb less calories, and it's also healthier for you, right? Because it acts as fiber. Now, before we wrap this up, or I see if anybody has questions, I gotta mention this. You know, a lot of us tend to, when we hear something's good, we're like, oh, it's good for us. The more, the better. No, okay? More is not more here. I want you to think of resistant starch like fiber. So just as, you know, if you eat too much fiber too fast, too soon, then you're gonna have some GI discomfort, right? You're gonna have some like tummy troubles. So this is the same thing. So don't think like you just need to be eating resistant starch all day. About benefits are shown with about 6 to 10 grams per day. You could maybe get away with up to 20. But more than that, you're probably gonna have some tummy troubles. So, you know, if you're eating plenty of whole plant foods, you're not gonna have a problem getting this in your diet, but I would go slowly with this. And again, if your goal is weight loss, if your goal is to have better blood sugar control, or to increase the strength of your gut health, again, if you're a person who eats things like rice, white potatoes, or beans, cook them the day before, cool them, reheat them, all right? Literally gonna be less of an impact on your blood sugar, which means less insulin is released, which means it's more likely you're gonna tap into fat, and you only ingest half the calories that you normally would. So if you cook a cup of rice, and there's like 220 calories or something like that, I think, if you cook it and eat it, you're taking in 200 calories. If you cook it, cool it, reheat it, and then eat it, it's half the calories. Trip out. Okay, so does anybody have questions or anything? I'm just making sure, because, you know, I just tend to talk and talk and talk. Okay, so, oh, hi, Ricardo. So if you are someone, again, because Ricardo just jumped in, so I'm just gonna sum this up for you, Ricardo. If you are someone who wants to lose weight, who wants better blood sugar control, who wants to increase their gut health, again, resistant starch, we can get that by cooking our rice, beans, or white potatoes, let them cool, maybe overnight in the refrigerator, and then reheat them the next day before we use them, okay? Because we only will, it makes it to where we only absorb half of the calories, and it barely impacts your blood sugar, okay? So this is something that you wanna try, and I gotta say, different resistant starches affect people differently. So, you know, maybe if you reheat rice, you're fine with it. Maybe if you reheat white potatoes, you know, it upsets your stomach. So unfortunately, you gotta just try this. If you're a person with a sensitive stomach, you just need to be aware of that. So I don't know. I think this is just really, really cool information. A lot of people in the nutrition industry are really talking about resistant starches. And now you already know. You're already there, man. Okay. Thanks for coming, you guys. Anybody have a question at all? All right. You're all just amazing. Okay. Go try it. Okay? Rice, beans, and white potatoes. Cook them early. Cool them. Reheat them. Oats. Don't cook them. Make overnight oats. Okay? All right. Oh, Anjan, hi. You're welcome, Ida. Yay, Katrina. Bye, Haya. Bye, little Matilda. Bye, boo-boo. Sorry, guys. It's an inside joke. Sorry you had to see that. Okay. I will, I'll see you guys next time. Okay. Bye.